for me was when my brother was supposed to have his leg amputated, his toe amputated, and he was scheduled, he was in the hospital, they prepped, his daughter was sitting right there next to him, waiting for them to come and pick him up for surgery. And the surgery was delayed, and it was delayed because the case before that had been gone long. And when the doctor was ready to do the surgery, before he did the surgery, he walked into his room, looked at his toe, and said, "We're not amputating this. It's looking good. The circulation has returned, and it's healed. We're not doing the surgery now." And it has not happened yet. My brother still has his toe, and that was months ago. I'm praising God. It is a miracle. It had to be. There was no other way. He had months and months and months of them trying to do something about that. There's another miracle. Many of you have heard that Clancy's grandson has lymphoma cancer, and it has been a real hard struggle for that family. They have hurt so bad. Among that, they had a challenge because their daughter was pregnant besides, and they were looking for something positive to come out of that, and then the daughter had a miscarriage, and it was just an unreal donor. But God has just showed them faithfully over and over and over again how He has walked alongside of them. They have given us example after example of how faithful God had been, and they could see His hand through it all. I can't even give you the examples, and I wish I could explain everything that's gone on. But I'm asking you to just trust me. God has been merciful beyond measure, and people have been so gracious. This young man is 24 years old, and he has not been able to work since this diagnosis, and he had no money to pay for all. He had just bought a house, and here he sits with this house and no way to pay for it. And God has just provided over and over. And yesterday, we were with his, or 2 days ago, his son called and he said, "I was sitting at my Bible and I was reading, and I read how God had just would fill the desires of your heart, and he said, Lord, the desire of my heart is that they would feel better, and he would be healthy again." And he had a telephone call saying that his blood was looking good. It appears that the cancer is at least gone for now. They couldn't find kids. They couldn't find any record of it. It just is more than they could ask or imagine. They have to go money to find out all the details. But we're trusting God and just praising God for what He's been doing. So we serve a mighty God. And I'm praising God that all things are working for good in His glory, and He's being glorified through it all. Thank you.
What happened this year, and the biggest thing to me is going back. God, quite a few years ago actually, did something in my life that this past year I've gone through a lot of health problems. My family, my mom passed the other day. A lot of sickness there. Seeing sickness, illness through my wife, and man, there have been times this year that I have doubted. And I thought I was the only one that ever doubted God. It's like, are you there? And I really doubted, but every time that happened, I go back to the one time in my life when, man, I really believe it was a miracle. I had taught in the school district for 23 years. On Wednesday, I had a seizure. And on Friday, I lost my job after 23 years. And I was devastated. And I had purchased 50 trees, and Jim had helped me on the day right after, on that Saturday in the morning, had helped me plant 25 of those trees. I saw a yellow balloon that got hung up in one of my trees. And I thought, man, some kid lost a balloon. Well, the next day Jim couldn't help me, and I went over to plant the other 25, and I noticed the balloon had broken. And I went over and pulled the balloon out of the tree because it didn't look good. And the card fell out of it. And on the card was 1 Peter 5:7. And basically, don't be anxious, it's giving everything to him because he cares about us. And it was like, whoa. You know, I mean, talk about coming in and it's like, hey, I'm here for you, I have a plan for you, this is me speaking to you. And every time I dealt, oh, by the way, that card, it came from Iron Ridge. That's a long ways away from Plymouth. And for God to put that up there and to have it land in my tree when I needed it the most. Every time I doubt, every time I think he's not faithful, my mind goes right back to that. And it's like, no, he showed himself. He stood right in front of you. And God is there, and he is so powerful in everything we do. If we just are willing to let him. Thank you.
I'm Dusty around you. I'm a teacher, and so it doesn't freak me out to talk in front of people, except if it's like adults.
We're little kids.
Yeah, I'll picture you guys at 16 years. So, in the last couple of years, I've been filled with quite a bit of stress. Just come up, by the way. The last couple of years have been kind of filled with stress, between graduating from college, trying to find a job, relationships, this, that, the other thing. And it's always been, I've tried to face the stress on my own, and that's just made things even more stressful. But every time that I've turned things over to God and just said, you take care of this, things have magically found a way that they've gotten a lot better. And I think that the most profound thing that happened took place this summer while I was in China. I was visiting a couple of friends in China, and we were having a fantastic trip. And for sake of time, I'm going to summarize this quite a bit. So, this is true. I found myself locked in a room with 3 members of the Chinese mafia. I'm not kidding, I'm not crazy. And basically the only way that I was going to get out of that room was to give them my money. Now, I don't speak any Mandarin, and they didn't speak any English, but I knew that when they were gesturing like this, that meant that they wanted my wallet. And I was refusing to give it to them. I tried to push past them to get out of the room, which obviously wasn't going to work. And so I continued to fight it, and they slapped me across the face, they were choking me against a brick wall, they were doing everything they could to intimidate me, and I was freaking out. Thoughts were going through my mind, I might not survive this. This could be it. Like, I could come home in a body bag, and that wouldn't be ideal. So, all of a sudden, out of the blue, I felt this wave of relief just wash over me, and suddenly I just felt completely comfortable, like whatever was going to happen is going to happen, and I'm going to be just fine. And they swiped my debit card and took a whole bunch of money off of it and everything, but they let me out, and in that moment, I even used humor. I was asking if they wanted me to, I'm like, were you guys looking to write a Yelp review for you guys? Because of their business that they were running. Apparently it was a big scam. But just turning it over to God and trusting that He has your back in every situation, no matter how bad it is, no matter how bad it looks, no matter how stressed out you might be. You just have to trust that things are going to work out in the long run, and stop trying to do everything on your own. Because me fighting against 3 people from the Chinese mafia wasn't going to happen. Trusting that God was going to get me out of there, that worked a little better. So that's what I've been trying to remember in life.
Hi, I'm Lily. A lot of you probably know Justine and Fred Johnson. I'm Justine's mom. And this past year has been a journey for our family. In the beginning of last year, I had a real bad cough. And so I went to Dr. Schrader for something else. And he said, well, I think because I had polyps on the lungs, he said, I think we should do MRIs and x-rays. Well, when we did the MRI, they saw that I had a mass on both kidneys. And so Dr. Schrader put me in touch with Dr. Zacharias in Milwaukee. And so I went through a lot of tests there. And the left kidney, he determined was cancerous. So we decided to take it out. So then I went through other tests for the right kidney, and he thought that he could go in and remove the mass, which he did remove as much as he could, but when he did that with tests, it was cancerous also. And so he said that only one thing, I believe is right, that they had there that would kill out the cancer, and I had the option of doing that, and I said, okay. I said, I will take the 6 treatments, and we will hope for the best and deal with the worst. And so I did the treatments, and God was good to me. My cancer is healed. And someone said, well, what if you get cancer back? Okay, but for now, I'm healed.
I was on our Africa trip this past year, and as we live here in the United States, we're just a person that we have to have everything, you know, hear this. But as I watched the people in Africa this past year, this past trip, I saw that people are happy no matter what they have, and they're willing to give of what they have and whatever. So as I came home this year, I asked the Lord to show me what I could do this year to help others. And I clean on my own, I'm self-employed. I don't make a lot of money, but I go to these houses of elderly and people that have nothing or their sickness, and I ask the Lord, help me to be a shining light to others. So as I go to these houses, they're just so happy for me to spend time with them and just to joyfully, you know, just talk with him and do whatever I can. So the money isn't the object of me going to their house. It's just bringing a shining light to these people that have nobody to come visit with them, or just to make them happy that there's somebody there. So each and every day as I go out my house, I ask the Lord, I know without you I can't do anything, but help me, Holy Spirit, to live within me and be a shining light to others. So I learned to stay away from materialistic living, to be content with what I have, but just to help me to be a shining light to others as I go around this coming year. I hope I can do better. And you know, finances aren't always the best, but the Lord has always been there for me to pay my bills. And you know, sometimes I wonder, well, how am I going to get through this week? But there's always there. The Lord is always there for me. So I haven't, you know, times I get trouble, but I'm always blessed and thank you, Jesus, for being on my side. For without Him, we can't do anything. So I've tried to keep my faith and His guidance in my life. So thank you.
This right now. Part of me wants to sit still so everybody else can have a chance. Part of me can't. So please bear with me. What's happened to me this year is this church. I've gone here for 20 years. I'm so grateful. We take for granted granted what we have sometimes, that we can so freely come and worship. And as our family has gone through a lot, many families do, we're not unique in that. And this year really has taught me that, is that we all deal with stuff, the good stuff and the bad. I feel like sometimes our life is the high highs, or, oh my goodness, God, stop the waves, you own them. We just keep getting knocked over. And for years, he's given me a verse in Lamentations about deliberately recalling to mind his faithfulness and his goodness. And oftentimes that's hard to do when you can't see the end, or you don't know that you're going to get the end that you think is the best for you. And I would come to this church, or somebody from this church would come to me. And I just want to thank you. And I'm going to ask you and encourage you, keep doing it, sweet Lois. Everything that you say, be outward focused and looking for people that need you to encourage them and to comfort them, or maybe to spur them on. I've got friends that come and correct me. You know, Scripture says whom God loves, he disciplines. Isn't that like counterintuitive? But isn't it true? And so, to love on one another and to show God's mercy, his comfort, to accept one another where we are, but to spur one another on to where we need to be in Christ. I am so blessed to have that woman as my mother. That when I was terrified, my husband is sick, my mom was diagnosed with aggressive cancer, can I tell you I am her baby? And I behaved as a baby. But you can't take my two favorite peeps, my husband, my mom. I adore them and they adore me. And I don't know what I would do. And she kept asking me through this process, God isn't just good because I'm getting better. God is good. And I think the turning point for me in living in absolute fear, I know we're not supposed to be there as Christians, but I'm a human Christian. And we have to choose not to live in fear. We have to trust that God is good. And we have to trust that he has a plan. And so when she came to me and she said, sis, I win. If I am healed and I get to stay here with the people I love, I win. I love Jesus and he died for me. And so if I go home to be with Jesus, I win and you'll be okay. And so I've heard so much through all of you. Every truth of who God is. And so my encouragement is, if you don't feel that release yet from the pressures you're under, from the fear you live with, from disappointments, from grief, from crushing fear. Lamentations says to us to deliberately recall to mind his goodness and his faithfulness. We have to choose that. We have to choose to believe. Sometimes it doesn't just bubble up out of us in that sweet Hallmark type of movie, right? It's hard work sometimes to hold on to your faith. You had said, I didn't know other people doubted. He is good. He deserves our trust and our faith. And this church, oh my goodness, I look around at all of you and I'm so grateful for who you are to one another, how you walk out God's love and his mercy and who he is. In 2017, that woman once again encouraged me to do that. And so now I want to stand up and pass that on to all of you as we start a new year. Be the church, not this building. but who God saved us to be. Everywhere you go, take the church with you. Don't just make it this activity. Take it with you and love on people. It's a hard world out there. And we can make a difference to every person that we meet just by being God to them. Thank you guys so much.
I'll try to make this one. This last October, I went to my dad's for his birthday, and before I got in the door, my stepmom Jean said, "We got to tell you something." My former supervisor got saved through where I work. I work at my brother calls it a hole. It's not a very good place. You ask Jim. But anyways, he said there's something different about Steve, that he became a Christian through we can't bring no Christian literature in there or nothing, but just the way you live. Because I just want to tell everybody, if you think you're not doing, just live your life the way God wants you to, and He'll do the rest.
And my story is not about healing. It's not about a glorious thing that happened in my life. It's actually a blessing. I call it blessing in disguise. It was Christmas, so I'm pretty sure some of you got a gift that it was wrapping. The wrapping was kind of awful. Did you? Well, it was kind of like this for me. So 2017 have been great. We started with a family trip to Conakry. That was absolutely amazing. But 3 weeks before that trip, I started getting very, very sick. I started having chest pain. I wasn't able to breathe during those episodes. Shaking, dizziness, vomiting right away. I have history of cardiac conditions, so I thought that I hit the 40s this year, so after 40s. So I thought that was my problem, so I went to the doctor. Actually, 4 times in 1 week, I ended in emergency room having those episodes, whatever it was. So my doctor started doing a lot of tests. It was 2 weeks of a lot of tests, CT scan, x-rays, blood work, a lot of things, trying to figure out what was wrong with me. Finally sitting with the doctor, she reviews all the testing. Everything is fine. Everything is perfect. And she comes up with the diagnosis. The diagnosis was panic attacks. For someone that has been a Christian pretty much her whole life, that seems kind of self-confident, that seems secure sometimes, that thought that her act was all together, I did not like that diagnosis. I said, no, maybe you need to check on something different. Maybe it's gotta be my heart. How silly it is that I prefer to have a heart attack than yes. Because you know what? That's mental illness. That's the stigma of mental illness. And I went through that and I didn't like it. But through all that time, God started working in my life in a way that I did not like at all. Why? Because we are used to ask for healing. We are used to ask for things to go away. We want God to respond to our prayer. And my prayer was, please heal me. This was affecting my family. My husband was affecting my work. I was not able to function, and I didn't want to take medications because, Christians don't get mental illness. Christians don't get sick. Anxiety is not for you. You have to trust God. You know what I mean, right? But during that time, God answered my prayer. The thing is that His answer I did not like at all. You know that story of Job when his wife started telling Job, why don't you curse you, God? He keeps doing these things to you. Why don't you curse? Do you remember what Job's response to his wife was? He says, woman, you are talking nonsense. And that was God's answer for me. He said, woman, you are talking nonsense. You know why? Because God is still the same. I might be broken. I might be messed up. I might not have my act together, but God is still the same in my good and in my bad. And Job responded to his wife, am I going to praise Him when things are good and not praise Him when things are wrong? And we tend to do that all the time. I know I do it all the time. But you know what? The Bible tells us in Romans 8:28, we know that God works all things together for good for the ones who love God, for those who are called according to His purpose. That is a promise, but it's not a promise where God is telling us that everything is going to run well. He's telling me that in the midst of your mess, I am going to flip things over and I'm going to make something good out of it. And that was the part that I didn't want to wait for, because I wanted healing right away. I prayed, I begged, and the healing didn't come. I am still having my panic attacks. I am in medication. And I call it the way it is, mental illness. Tanya does not stop to be Tanya. I am the same person. It's just that I get a little wonky sometimes. But, it's out of my control. It's illness. We take a pill for diabetes, but we don't think that someone with anxiety or depression should take medication. Why is that? We are a whole, we are spirit, we are soul, we have emotions, we have a brain, we have a body. They get messed up. They get ill. And since I was a little girl, I was always told that I was strong. And our society is constantly telling a woman, especially a woman, this is for you ladies, and for me, you're strong. We have since the 40s this logo, big icon of Rosie the Riveteer, with the muscle and the... Do you know that Rosie quit a week after that? I'm serious. That is not something that people say. Why? Because we are not supposed to be strong. But we believe that we have to. And for many, many years, I kept the stamp of I'm strong, I'm dependent, I'm resilient. If you know all the things that I have gone through in my life, and I have overcome them all. And somehow I forgot that I overcome and I overcame because of God, not because of my own abilities, not because of my own strength. And God broke me into many pieces. And I am still broken. And here, sometimes, I still have my panic attacks. I am in my medications. But you know what? With panic attacks or without them, God is still the same. With my pain, God remains almighty. And that's the part that we don't want to accept many times. We always say that God is in control, but when things don't go the way we like it, we say, God, make your will be done. But when His will is done and we don't like it, we start begging for our own will. And our prayers become that. And that was me. But you know what? God has changed my way of approaching things. And I just don't have to be strong anymore. And this, there's a Bible verse, and I make it myself. In 2 Corinthians 12:9, He says to me, Tanya, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made in your weakness. While I thought that I had it all together and I thought that I was strong, I was not allowing a strong God in my life. I got you. This is me, right here, and this is you too. Whole and lovely and all the things that you look of yourself, right? But guess what? If I shine God's light through it, do you see it? Now I'm broken. And His light is shining through me. Because in my weakness, His power is completely perfect. So with panic attacks and all my goofiness, God is still good and His grace is sufficient. God bless you. Amen.
Hello everybody, my name is David. I've been coming here for about 4 months and a little nervous, but I think I'm just gonna dive right in. So I've been kind of researching a little bit on shame and vulnerability, and I think it's really important to remember that although we're shameful and vulnerable at times, it's not really weakness. Sometimes it can be our greatest measure of courage. So I think that's really important to kind of go into this with right away. Starting out, I'm going to dive right in because I know I don't have that much time, but I came back to the Lord with my accident. I brought a picture with, I don't know if they have it or not, but I was, That's totally okay. I was in a car accident, and it was 4 months ago. And before then, I was more spiritual than religious and kind of fell away from religion. I think my generation kind of says, like, they say they're spiritual, but they place it not in Christ, right? They place it in yoga or crystals or whatever the new age stuff. I don't really know whatever that is, okay? So I was there, and I was like, I got this. I got life. I'm good. I can do everything I want. I'm like, you know, I'm going to figure it all out. My parents were like, yeah, okay, David. But I hit rock bottom, and my car, all I remember was coming up and waking up to flames, and I couldn't get out, and it was late in the night. And I broke out of my windshield, and when I got to the street, my car completely exploded, and I should not be here. So the cool part of that, though, you're like, what's the cool part? They're really supposed to just die, right? I was took to the ambulance, and I only spent 3 hours in the emergency room. That's completely it. I had no fractures, no broken bones. I had nothing wrong with me, and I just had a couple glass abrasions. So I was like, okay. I was like, all right. So when life started to calm down a little bit, I was like, okay, I was trying to get regrounded. Took some time off work. Started going back to my parents. Started getting rooted in things that were like really important. My family, my friends, close people. I got invited to church from the Molars. Okay. I was like, yeah, okay. I was like, at the time I was like, church felt like an obligation at the time, right? I know we've all kind of been there at one point, maybe not some of you, but church sometimes felt like an obligation. I was like, I should probably give thanks to something, right? Like, I should have been dead, so I should probably say thank you to God or whatever. And I kid you not, that first service that I walked into this church, the first line that played on that first song was, Jesus is the reason you're alive. And I immediately I was sitting next to Connie and I left because I started crying. And from that moment, I was like, okay, like, I'm pretty intuitive. I was like, there has to be something. Like, there has to be more. And more signs started coming. I got approached from Pastor Don. I got approached immediately from Gary. And I was like, someone tell him I was coming? Or like, is this just kind of some random act? So being more curious about God, I started to surround myself around people who knew about Him already and bringing me back. And I started asking more questions. I started being more curious. And through that, I just started becoming a little bit on fire. So I went home and I just made an intention with God that night, and I said, I really want you to speak through my life. And I remember crying during my prayer. It was late at night, around 11 o'clock, and I was starting to let go of I was like shedding all this crap out of my life. And I remember writing this prayer, and I'm just going to finish with this, but I remember coming in out of subconscious, almost sleeping, and I woke up at 5 a.m. calling my grandma, like shaking and like scared, and she's like, why are you crying? I go, because I know God. She's like, you should be happy. I'm like, I am happy, but I'm also freaking scared too, in a very healthy way, because I'm in the presence of such an amazing God. So I said, Grandma, I wrote this prayer. I don't really write that often, so I was like, this is really strange for me, but I know it was Him speaking through me, and I just like to share that to end. I titled it Through a Sinner's Prayer, and it starts with, I become so self-conscious and so aware of this world of sin and everything in it and beyond created by Him. I've been blasted into a place of peace in my life where instead of living it, I've been retaining and feeling every part of it as blessing made by God, which flowed through His Son and now felt through your Spirit overwhelmingly so. To think you know everything is created by one all-powerful divine is one thing, but to actually become fully aware and emerge with the Spirit, gifted because of Christ, is something that's almost felt out of body, allowing the Spirit of God to show you what's always only ever been. I pray for strength and guidance to stay aligned with the truth and light of your Spirit, for I know now that you only ever wanted to show me the way. Show and help to remind me in spiritual trials to respond with the love that always was, and which brings me back to you. I feel your warm embrace around my life, a life that is, was, and always will be ever truly yours. To once know a truth that I now feel brings a sense of peace and comfort, and a silent noise to everything man has made physical in this world, and awaken to everything spiritual through your Son, to give glory to the Creator of it all, God. How blind for a love you only ever wanted to give me, yet humbled that you ever did at all. I give thanks to Him in this new awareness under His glory. It's so beyond, and I'm so thankful and humbled. Celebrating life with all this meaning, awakening with the awareness of your Holy Spirit, which brings me to you. Written through a sinner's prayer, acknowledging that because I know Jesus, God was always there. This was dated on 10/31 this year, Halloween night. How ironic is that? But I want to thank you, Plymouth Lions, for being so welcoming. God bless you guys. Thank you very much.
this verse in Isaiah that says, they'll rebuild the old ruins, raise a new city out of the wreckage. They'll start over on the ruined cities, take the rubble left behind and make it new. And our family and our life was a complete wreck. And this is just a glimpse of the journey that we were going on and that we've been on. And it's not all cleaned up. But God uses the wreckage. He doesn't take it away, He uses it to rebuild.
My name is Jay, and this is my wife Debbie. And we got married in 2005, and we had 7 children, and combined marriage, or second marriage. And it was hard. It was hard. It's hard to be married. It's hard to be married when you have a big family and you have stepchildren and a blended family. It was really hard. And it took a toll on us, and we thought when we started off that we got everything figured out and we knew how to be parents and have kids, and that it was going to be a piece of cake. And it was a little hard here and there, but it really, that and just life and different things really just took a toll on our marriage. And by the 10-year mark, we were in a lot worse shape than we really thought we were. And some certain things in the family, things were happening and some dynamics, and one incident took place, and I'm not going to get into the details, but the cops came, and so you kind of just imagine, things were kind of unraveling, and so under that stress and just some different things, Deb actually left. She left me, and I came home and had a Dear John note, or Dear Jay, I guess, and I was just shocked. I was completely shocked. I just didn't think it was that bad. I couldn't understand. And I was devastated and angry and hurt. I was a hurting person. And so my response pretty much was just like, fine, I'm going to leave. I'm just going to go on without you. I don't need you. And I was mad at her. And so I did some things. I got involved with things like pornography. I just decided I was going to find somebody else. And so Deb ended up, sending. I was served. I had never been served before, but I was served papers for legal separation. I was like, well, I couldn't believe that. I kind of just was trying to figure it all out and just like take it all in, and so I kind of was pretty much running from that, I guess, because we handled that, and I wasn't ready to deal with it, but it's interesting and very ironic, but like 2 years ago today, I was actually in Florida with another woman, and I was going to spend the weekend. I was spending the weekend there. It was December 31st, New Year's Eve, and I just thought, I'm going to have fun. I'm sick of all this family stuff. I'm tired of Deb and all this stuff she's trying to do, and so there I was, and getting ready to go out for New Year's Eve in the late afternoon. The sun's getting dark, and I get a call, and it's Deb calling me. She called me, and anyway, so I was like, well, I didn't know if I should pick up, but then I believe God told me to pick up.
So I was on my way to Chicago to spend time with my sister for New Year's Eve. Couldn't wait to go to Chicago, I love that city. But anyway, driving 65 miles an hour through the city of Milwaukee. 2 cars ahead of me, there is an ice block that starts going airborne on a car off the roof, pretty big. And as soon as I started to go airborne, I knew it was going to hit my car, and I felt this idea coming into my head, hold on with 2 hands, don't swerve, and God is going to use this. And I'm thinking, okay, so I held on and smashed into my windshield, busted my roof of my car, smashed even a hole into my windshield, and glass everywhere. I managed to pull over, ended up not knowing if I had towing insurance, so I called Jay, not knowing where he was or what he was up to, and asking him if I had towing insurance. And that was the beginning of us coming back together, because that's when Jay realized that he had still some feelings for me, and so that was that incident.
Actually, in hindsight, when she called, I was like, I don't want to answer this phone, and yet I know God told me to pick it up, and then I felt really surprised, but I was like, are you okay? I really was concerned about that, and I'm like, I'm really mad at her. Why am I concerned about her? And then even the person I was with was kind of like, why do you care about her? Why are you reacting like that? So I knew God was doing something, but I didn't know it at the time.
So eventually in March, we became legally separated. In July, we sold our home. I was completely confused and upset and whatever. I didn't have a regular full-time job, so I decided I'd just go to Mexico and volunteer at a children's home there. So that's exactly what I did. Over the border from El Paso and Juarez, the murder capital of the world at one point. And that was a very intense situation, but it was the best of times and the worst of times, because I spent time in the house of prayer. They have a worship time 24 hours a day, and that's where, in my prayer time on November 11th, I felt the Lord say to me, pray that Jay contacts you and asks to fly to Mexico to drive back with you to Wisconsin. Now at that point, Jay and I really didn't have much contact, let alone for him to buy a plane ticket, one way to drive me back 24 hours in the car. And you can imagine, spending 24 hours with a person that you're legally separated from and you're just not happy with at that point. And so I wrote it down in my journal and I dated it because I said, Lord, there's no way this is going to happen. And 2 weeks later, Jay calls me and he says, did you get my letter? And I said, no. And he goes, well, in it I wrote that I was thinking about maybe flying down to drive back. And he goes, what do you think? And I said, yes. And he goes, aren't you going to think about it? And I said, I don't have to. I prayed about it 2 weeks ago. And so that was
So yeah, I felt like I wanted to go back. I thought, well, I know she's going to, I cared about that at that point, and I was hoping and wanting our marriage to be restored, but I wasn't really sure if it was going to be. So I thought, well, she's got to drive back all the way from El Paso. That's like, I don't know, 2,000 seemed like miles. So I thought, well, maybe she would want me to come back with her, maybe and help with the drive. So I went down there. It was the start there again. It was a significant, that was a turning point. We spent some time down there and kind of getting some trust, but still driving back. We talked about a lot of things, and sometimes we just have to stop talking because it would be like this is getting too heavy. But it was still a special memory of just seeing that we were spending that time together. It was really perfect. God really just gave us that time to be together alone and talking. We drove up to Denver, El Paso, and then spent the night with some people we knew, and then came back. So it was like a 3-day drive. So we were back in Wisconsin together. Deb ended up staying with her daughter, living, and so I was here in Sheboygan. Wasn't sure where things were going. We ended up starting a counseling situation with a counselor, and then we moved to a different counselor. Didn't feel like the one was working quite right for us, and not really spending a little bit of time together, but still not really sure if the relationship was going to go. We ended up meeting up with a counselor, and the second counselor we tried. And interestingly, that we started talking about the truth and things that the lies we believe. And this particular counselor gave us these reality statements, which were paraphrased scriptures of just how God loves us, different things that we speak out, that there's so many negative things that come against us and lies that I think all of us believe. And I really think that was a real big point in us coming together, is just realizing that we believe a lot of lies. And so we started saying these reality statements, but they were so corny initially because you're just saying this thing like, I'm this kind of person. It seemed like I'm okay, you're okay, but it really wasn't. And as we did it about 20 or 30 days, it started changing our lives, and we started really believing some things that were true and pushing out falseness with truth.
And then one of the verses that you're probably familiar with is from 2 Corinthians chapter 10. It says, we use our powerful God tools for smashing warped philosophies, tearing down barriers erected against the truth of God, fitting every loose thought and emotion and impulse into the structure of life shaped by Christ. Our tools are ready at hand for clearing the ground of every obstruction and building lives of obedience into maturity. And I can imagine that you guys are in the same camp as Jay and I were, growing up. You've got some ideas about life, how life is, and sometimes they're just so stuck in your head or in your heart that you don't even realize they're warped. They're warped philosophies and they're wrong ways of thinking. And so we have been saying these truth statements, and we have been reading that scripture and asking the Lord to reveal to us those lies that we have believed. And there's some really powerful healing that's been happening in our lives.
So at some point, we were spending time together and things were getting a lot more positive. I was thinking that, I thought Deb needed to get her own job and I had my job, and we would start dating, and then a year later, maybe we would come back together. We would hopefully come back together and start a marriage again. And I was advised by a friend that said, well, you know, you are married and, you know, you've been separated for 2 years, and that's really, you know, it's probably not going to be good for you to stay separated. So, and I don't always listen to people, but I'm like, you know, I think that's good advice. Or at least it seemed like God was speaking through the man. I'm like, you know what? Okay, we conquered what I thought. Okay, so I said, I think I'll do this. It was totally, and so I invited Deb to go up. We were going to go on a camping trip. It was July 8th, and I was going to kind of re-propose to her. And I had all this stuff, you know, I was going to make it really kind of romantic. And anyway, we ended up getting in a fight before we went, and I told her basically, fine, I'm going to go by myself, and why don't you just go do whatever I was weird, and then, so that all crashed and burned, you know, that morning. And then I was thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, you know, I apologized to her for some things that I didn't apologize, and I asked her if she would give me a redo. You know, it's always good to get a redo, and she said yes. So we went up.
So that day, I had been applying, well, not just that day, but I had been applying for teaching positions, and my success rate in Plymouth of getting a teaching job was absolutely zero. I got no job offers, and I had come from Illinois with my master's in teaching, and it just seemed very hard to get a job here. Well, I finally got a job offer in north of Green Bay, and I was highly considering it, but it was, okay, I guess that's my clue to be done. But anyway, yeah, so I turned it down, and it sounds crazy. I needed a job really badly. I turned it down. That's the day that Jay asked me to be with him again.
And I did on that July 8th.
That was the very day. And then, as some of you may know, on a complete fluke, I got a job in Riverview, and I'm a family and science teacher there, which is really home ec, and so that's amazing story. What I really want to say is, which has kind of been said here too, before with someone else, is that this story isn't over, and it's still very messy. There's a lot of brokenness still, but God is at work.
Right, one thing I want to say too is that, yeah, it's, you know, it sounds like a nice little thing, but it's still in process. And, you know, it's not like a TV show or 30-minute sitcom where everything gets all resolved and everything. But I do believe that in the messiness that we see the messiness. God knows what He's doing, and we never probably ever arrive at, you know, and get all that messiness cleaned up. But that's okay. It's like we're just moving forward. And so that's the thing I want to tell people is just that it isn't always going to look all nice, and we don't have it all figured out. But I know God is doing it. So that would be.
About various things, and this has been kind of an incredible year. I think really just looking back on it, there's not necessarily a moment where all of a sudden God answered all of our prayers at once, but I'm realizing it right now. And 1 year ago, we were living in Brazil, and we had just made the decision to move back to the States, and we didn't know what the future held. We thought we did, and that kind of crashed and burned right after we came back, not in a bad way, but all of a sudden, we had no direction. I didn't know if I could continue in ministry. We were wondering if God was just getting us back to Wisconsin so that He could provide another job. I was having major health issues, and our family in general was just going through a lot of mourning. And I think in the first service, I'm going to talk about doubt. And it's something that missionaries probably don't want to talk about a lot. But I had a lot of doubts this year. Just not that God wasn't working, but sometimes it felt like maybe he wasn't listening or he didn't care. But it definitely does. And praise the Lord, I've gone through surgeries, I've seen a lot of doctors, I've gone to through a lot of appointments trying to figure out what's going on with my health and why can't I live in Brazil and keep doing the ministry that God called us to. And gradually through this year, and now looking back, it's unbelievable. I'm not having migraines right now. I wasn't even going to focus on that part. But it's a really big deal. Sarah told me that she couldn't do this live because she would cry to make me. But not only that, I'm 100% better right now. Not that it's never, but it's almost never. I'm able to be the production. In the past month, God has provided 3 new jobs for us that are starting tomorrow. I am going to be staying within the exact passion that God has given me. Within Wycliffe, the organization we work for, I'm going to be the associate coordinator for ethnomusicology and the arts for SIL International. And I'm able to live here in Wisconsin, be around family, have a very stable situation, be a part of this church, serving as a worship director tomorrow. Sarah's involved with the children's ministry. She's been teaching lessons. A month ago, if you asked me if I could come up here and tell you that all of our prayers have been answered this year, I didn't expect it at all. And literally every single one has been answered. And God just, in His weird timing, that He likes to do, made it all happen all at the same time. It was 1 week, all of a sudden we had these things all pop up and line up completely. And a lot of you walked through this with us. And so thank you for your prayers. God is listening, He's answering, and it's completely and utterly up to Him. When you're doubting, sometimes you have to tell yourself, I know Sarah talked about this a lot, when we made a decision to come back to the States, don't doubt in the dark what God has shown you in the light. And that He's faithful, and He'll answer in His own time. It may be perfect, it may be something that's out of left field and you don't understand. But I want to thank all of the people who shared today for, in some sense, it's unleashing this emotion in me, because I was just riveted by everybody's stories of how God has been faithful, not just this year, but through all of our lives. So thank you for being part of our family and for praying for me so hard for so many years.
I was not exactly planning on being up here today. Some of you know my story, some of you don't, but this year has been a rough year, to say the least. God has unveiled some things to me, and for the last 15 years I have created an idol in my husband. I have everything I was, I live for him and for what I was, and my life came crashing down this year when I no longer had that identity. I'm no longer a stay-at-home mom, I'm not a wife, I'm not I don't get any of those privileges anymore, and it's been rough. And I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with the movie War Room, but when this happened, I had watched that, and I got on my knees in my room, and I pinned everything on my wall. And I started praying, and I literally had bruises on my knees from it. And I could not tell you from how many people in here, how many people out there, how many names I've added to my blessing chart. God has shown me a lot in my life. He has given me a lot through this. And just to name one of the biggest ones through this, my son was able to come to know Christ this year and be baptized. On my lonely days, he holds me and says, "It's okay, Mom, you're not lonely because Jesus is with you." My daughter has grown exponentially in her faith walk, for praying for different people. And as much as I wasn't ready to come up here because, Don, I am still in the fire, I told myself in the beginning of this trial that I didn't care what happened to me as long as I gave God the glory. And He deserves everything He has given to me through you guys and through my family. And as I walk through this, my life verse this year, some of you may know, is Ecclesiastes 3:11. He has made everything beautiful in His time. I don't know where He's leading me. I don't know what He has in store for me and my family. But I trust that He knows He's already made it beautiful. I don't have to wait and imagine. I can just trust in Him. And so I just wanted to come up here and share with you guys. I wanted to thank you guys for holding me and my family up through the trials. I thank you for showing me God's love and mercy when I've gone through my darkest days. And just being His light in every way. So thank you guys.
I'm Jeannie, and the last probably month, God has revealed to me a deep wound that I need to deal with. And as difficult as it is, I'm excited about it. I know I'm crazy. Because I'm excited to see how God is going to redeem this. And all of these stories today, everybody is expecting redemption by God. And that is so exciting. So let's start out the new year expecting to see God work, continue to work in us and through us, and to redeem us and redeem our brokenness. We are all broken, and He wants to redeem it.